I'm speaking today for the motion that this House will support a Cold War with China, but communist China, not China itself. I am not anti-China. I love my people, and I love China. When I was crowned Miss World Canada in 2015, because I used the platform to speak about China's human rights abuses, my father in China was threatened by the security agents, his business dismantled. Now my grandparents and him are both all banned from traveling outside. I could go on, but for tonight's forum, I'm going to take a novel approach by asking, how does China see us? Does the Chinese Communist Party already consider itself to be in a Cold War with the West? As a child in China, I remember being indoctrinated with the propaganda of the hostile foreign forces. We were repeatedly told that the Western power subjugated and humiliated China in the 19th century, and these old grievances were kept alive to divert domestic discontent. We were told over and over again that even today, the West continued to covertly undermine, isolate, destabilize the country. Any expression of discontent within China, including the protests of Tibetan Buddhists, Falun Gong practitioners, democracy activists, are all blamed to the black hand of anti-China forces in the West. Chinese courageous human rights lawyers are being called agents of foreign hostile forces. The pattern continues today. The Chinese government claims that the West is behind Hong Kong's pro-democracy movement and the Taiwanese government. Essentially, all domestic problems are blamed onto the invisible enemy of the West. Western companies know that their technology are helping the Chinese government to surveil its own system through the infamous social credit system. Yet they still deal with them. We all know that Huawei's 5G technology is a Trojan horse that will affect our future, our children's future. But yet, we just signed a deal with them. Our values are already compromised. Our way of life is already conceded. But let me remind you that the human rights atrocities, the injustice that are happening within Chinese border cannot be contained. It will bleed out to every silent bystanders in the world. And the coronavirus outbreak is a perfect example of that. On December 1st, Chinese government has already discovered the first case of coronavirus in Wuhan. Yet the local officials spent the first period of time suppressing the news, arrested 8 courageous doctors for, quote, spreading rumor and destabilize the society. The local government even went as far as hosting 100,000 people to a public Chinese New Year dinner, just to show that Wuhan is as prosperous as ever and as safe as ever. This is reminiscent of what happened in Chernobyl. The Soviets did not admit the nuclear accident until Sweden had picked up its fallout and threatened to report it to International Atomic Energy Agency. The Chinese government did not reveal the virus and report about or confirm the virus outbreak until the first overseas case was detected in Thailand. One may ask, why did the Chinese officials take such a risk? The mentality of Chinese communist officials is that they are willing to gamble on human life in the sake of their own rule. And this mentality is the same from the smallest town to the central government in Beijing. The sole purpose for Chinese Communist Party is to stay in power, disregarding the cost of human life. There are many doctors, courageous doctors and nurses, using different channels to try to tell the world the truth about the outbreak. They reported that the hospitals are over capacity. Doctors and nurses are infected. Many people are turned away to self-quarantine at home. Many people are dying. The life under authoritarian Chinese Communist Party is a life without God's grace. It's a life where your innate worth as a human being is never recognized, and your value is judged solely on your use for the Chinese Communist Party. And that was my childhood. I want to close by reminding everyone that supporting a Cold War with China, Communist China, you're standing with the Chinese people. By confronting a regime that has brought turmoil and suffering onto this ancient land for decades. I also want to leave you with this question. If the Chinese Communist government does not treat its own citizens with any respect, why should us in the West expect ourselves to be treated any differently? Thank you.